Hey guys, what's up? It's Savannah. Welcome back to another episode of My Thoughts Exactly. Thank you guys so much for joining me here today. If you're new here, hi, my name's Savannah. I'm your host of My Thoughts Exactly. And before we get started, make sure you go ahead and hit subscribe. That way you never miss an episode because we post weekly here on the podcast every single Friday and you're not going to want to miss it. We also upload the video version onto YouTube on Fridays as well. So make sure you're subscribed there. And with that being said, you guys, happy Friday. I hope you've been having a great week so far. And if you haven't, guess what? It's the weekend. It's Friday. You did it. You made it. Happy Friday, you guys. If you are watching me on YouTube right now, you may or may not notice, which I would hope you would notice a little bit. We're in a different setting. We're filming in a different area. I'm at my parents' house right now. And I'm filming here, and that is why we are in a new, different setting. But I actually kind of like it. I feel like it's very relaxed, chill, zen, all of the vibes. I feel like it's giving good energy, good vibes. I like it. You can let me know. But yeah, that's why the background is different today. So we've got a little bit of a change up, a little bit of a switch up. I always really like having a bit of a breakup when it comes to my work environment. I work from home. And so if you are someone like me who also works from home, by the way, love working from home, love getting the luxury of being able to do that. But it is nice every so often to break it up by going to a coffee shop or going to, a different setting such as my parents' house. Just being able to get out of the house for a little bit, I find is really important for me and my mental clarity and sanity, because if I don't and I just stay in the house 24/7, I will go insane just a little bit. But I feel like it takes me a while to get there. It does. It takes me quite a bit of time. But then once I get there, I'm like, okay, no, I need to get out of the house a little bit, especially because right now I am dog sitting. I have both Church and my parents' dog Tug. If you've been watching, well, I don't think the vlog will be up by the time you guys see this episode. I think I'm going to put it up on Sunday. But if you have been watching the vlog, when you see it, you'll notice that Tug is in the background. And having two big dogs in the space that I live, like Church fits in my house, but Church and another 80-pound dog is a lot to fit in my house. So I'm just happy that I have a space that I can bring them and they can run around and all is well there. But anyways, we're not here to talk about my dogs. We are here today, as you can tell by the title, to talk about something that has really taken the internet, or at least the side of the internet that I'm on, by storm, as I've noticed lately. And this is, as you can tell by the title, it's this theory, and it is called the let them theory. And I feel like, well, first of all, to back it up, the let them theory is a theory that was presented to the internet by a woman named Mel Robbins. She's written a book about it, and the book is available for you to purchase Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anywhere you want to, if that's something that you're interested in. She really is the one that I feel like made this theory popular and coined it as this let them theory. I do think that this is something that people have been saying in different words and kind of phrasing it in different ways for years and years and years now. But the way in which she has presented it to the world and the way that she has brought it to everyone's attention is really stuck. And I think that it's really something that's important to talk about. And I find that when I first heard about the let them theory, I noticed that it was something that really struck a chord with me. And it was something that I know personally I have been doing a lot of kind of reflecting on it, truthfully, because if you don't know, the let them theory, which we're going to kind of get into all of it, is what we're going to talk about today, because I think it's really important to talk about. And I think it's important to kind of, especially if you are someone like me who is a chronic overthinker, someone who really hyper-analyzes everything, hyper-analyzes not just my own actions, but everyone else's, it can get exhausting. It can get mentally draining. And the whole premise of this let them theory is to essentially let everyone act how they're going to act. You cannot control anyone else's behavior. If they are going to love you, let them. If they're going to leave you, let them. If they're going to support you, let them. If they're going to choose someone else, let them. That's kind of the premise of this let them theory, is that you can never control how someone reacts or responds or chooses to live their life. You'll never be able, no matter how hard you try and grasp onto this idea, you'll never be able to control anyone else's actions. You'll never be able to control control how someone chooses to operate their life, but what you can control is how you respond to it. And I think that that's super, super powerful. I also think that, something that she talks about in this Let Them theory is people, when you give them the opportunity to show their true colors, they will, instead of being someone and having this mindset of like needing to control. It really all comes back down to control. When you are the type of person who feels the need to control every little thing and control how someone else operates, you're not giving someone else the ability to show you what their true intentions are. A lot of times people who have this need for control will do so because they feel like if they can control the situation, then they can control the outcome. But that is completely not true. No matter how hard we try to grip onto a situation, we will never be able to control the outcome of it if it involves another person, because we don't know what the other person is really thinking, what they want to do, how they would move and operate if we loosened the grip a little bit. And that's the whole basis of this Let Them theory, is when you are holding on so tightly, you're not giving someone the ability to show you what their intentions are. And when you give them the room to do that, whether it be good or bad, they will show you. They will show you what they're there for. They will show you what their intentions are. They will show you if they're there for you, if they have an ulterior motive, if you get hurt at the end of the day. But again, it comes back to having to let them do that. Now, I know for me personally, for the majority of my life, I have so much struggled with this Let Them theory. And, the way in which Mel has kind of packaged this Let Them theory, if you will, the way that she has presented it and kind of tied it in a bow and, really gotten it down to a concise presentation, the way that she has approached it, like I said, it really has struck me, because I feel like this is something that I very much could have used 5 years ago, 10 years ago. It's something that I wish I knew about to the extent that I do now. Mind you, I think, as I said in the beginning, I think that this whole idea of the Let Them theory has been talked about for years and years and years. I think that many people have been saying this just in different ways and different phrases. It's been told to me in the sentences and the phrases of, you can't control what another person does, or, you just have to let them do them, or just, why do you care so much? Just, you don't have to have control. Just wait and see what happens. I've always been presented kind of this Let Them theory in those types of phrases, and it's never sat right with me, because again, I feel like being, so type A and just, controlling and not being able to let my mind rest. I'm like, no, you don't get it. Like, what do you mean? Just let them, what do you mean? Like, that's like my defense, the defense mechanism that I have wants to just completely put that wall up and be like, what do you mean let them? I'm not going to let them do anything, because I can't count on the fact that they're going to actually do what I need them to do. And that's where we get into this cycle of not being able to let people present themselves how they naturally would. At the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, and this is kind of where I have gotten to this point with this Let Them theory, as where I'm sitting now today and this day, versus, 5 years ago, is if I control every little facet of my life and every person that comes into my life, and if I try to have a tight grip on what an outcome of a situation is going to be with a friendship or a life experience or, dating. It doesn't pertain to my dating life anymore, but just, in any scenario, really, if I try and have such a tight grip on it, I'm never going to know who's there for me. And that's actually something that I have, talked about in therapy. It's something that I've been working on in my own individual therapy. I've told you guys that I started getting back into therapy a couple months ago, and it's been something that's really been beneficial for me, because I'm just starting to kind of unpack and see things in a different perspective than I didn't before. And something that we have talked about in my individual therapy is the fact that I, for so long, have tried to manipulate situations by offering certain things to people, whether that be monetary things, whether it be gift giving, whether it be, sex, my body, like whatever it is, just like constantly trying to give people things because I didn't feel like my own self is good enough. And I know that gets into like a whole deeper conversation, and maybe we can touch on that in a different episode. But more so, what I've learned now through having these conversations is, instead of doing that, instead of going to those great lengths, and instead of feeling like I have to have such a white knuckle grip on something or else it's going to slip through my fingers, why not take a deep breath and just let people be who they are and act how they're going to? Because at the end of the day, what I have learned, if there's anything that I have learned, which is the piece of advice that I can give you, is no matter how hard I try, no matter how much I can try to control a situation in the beginning, at the end of the day, people's true colors are going to show no matter what. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter how hard you try and control something. It doesn't matter how you might try to make a situation work in your favor. It doesn't matter what you might try and give someone. People's true colors will come to the surface at the end of the day if you give them the time, like a long enough time for that to happen. They will come to the surface. And what I've learned is that none of the things that I tried to do to save situations mattered. None of the things that I gave, none of the things that I tried to almost like exchange for mattered at the end of the day, because everyone's true colors came to the surface eventually. So where the let them theory comes into that is, instead of trying to fight for someone's love, instead of trying to fight for someone's attention, instead of trying to fight for someone's friendship, I'm just going to sit back for a second, and I'm not going to do things how I used to, because clearly it didn't work in my favor for a really long time. I'm not going to go above and beyond like that. But what I am going to do is I'm going to take a second, and I'm going to pause, and I'm going to sit back, and I'm going to watch how someone moves, and I'm going to watch how someone behaves around me, and I'm going to watch how they show up for me. And through their actions in doing that for an extended period of time, I will see their true intentions. I will see their true colors. I will see how they show up for me or not, and whether or not I think that it's someone that I would like to have in my life. That is where I'm at now with the let them theory. I have spent so much time stressing and worrying and overthinking and hyperanalyzing about different people and scenarios and how they're going to fit into my life and what's going to happen if this happens. And you go through, scenario A, B, C, D, E, F, G, when in reality, it's like none of those end up happening. All I've been doing is I'm stressing myself out. I'm taking so much mental energy and putting it towards scenarios and people that are not doing the same. What would happen if I just let go? And that's kind of what I'm here to relay to you today, is the message that I wish I would have been able to give myself a couple years ago, is what is the worst thing that happens if you just let go for a little bit? What is the worst thing that happens if you give up a little bit of control? What is the worst thing that happens if you don't have a tight grip on the situation anymore and you let yourself relax? And, you could say to me, well, they could do this. Or what if they do that? Or what if they leave? Or what if they cheat? Or what if they decide they don't want to be with me anymore? Okay. To me, it's actually, this is where perspective shifts. And this is where I truly believe my frontal lobe has developed, because where I see that now is, if that's the case, then you have your answer. You don't want someone waiting around, or you don't want someone who is only with you because you're having to, move their game pieces throughout the game. You want them to be able to be there, be present, be with you because they want to, not you. It's like the visual that I have is, in the game of life, if you've ever played that game, you have the game board and you have the little pieces and you keep going through, and it's almost like you are kind of moving everyone else's car throughout the game of life, because in life, instead of the pieces that you move, it's the car, and you put the little people inside of it. You guys know what I'm talking about? That's the visual that I think of, is that, when you try and control everything, it's like you're not even letting the other person be like, no, this is what I'm going to do. This is, the route that I'm going to take. And, when you get to the fork in the road in the game of life and you go one way or another, you're like, no, you're going to move this way because that makes me feel comfortable and that's what I want, and I'm going to control the situation. So the game of life is kind of the visual that I see when I think about this let them theory, because when you take control of everyone else's game pieces, you feel like you know what the outcome is going to be. You know what the finish line is going to look like. But in reality, what you're doing is you are just prolonging some sometimes the inevitable. But my point being in all of that is, why would you want to? Why would you want to have to manipulate? And I don't mean manipulate I know manipulate, it's not a good positive term. And sometimes it can mean calculated and vindictive. I don't mean it in that way. I more so mean it like you're manipulating situations to, appease your anxiety in the moment or to satisfy the control factor that you feel. But why would you want to do that? Trust me, I know how exhausting that is. I truly know how exhausting that is. I've spent so much time trying to be one step ahead of everyone, or really 5 steps ahead of everyone, because I felt like if I was, then I could somehow predict the future. And I could somehow predict how people were going to treat me, what they were going to do, what they were going to say. And I ultimately was trying to protect myself from getting hurt in the end. And I think that that's what a lot of people who have these, controlling tendencies or these anxiety tendencies, or not tendencies, if you just have anxiety, period. I think that a lot of it is we fear not knowing. We fear the unknown. We fear the possibility of us getting hurt. We fear what could happen if ... And at the end of the day, what we need to realize about life in general is that we're never going to know the answers. And that's something that I've learned in therapy too, is that I could sit here and I can guess and I could rack in my brain about why did this happen? Why did this happen? Why did that happen? But at the end of the day, there's certain things that you're not going to know the answers to, and that's okay. You don't have to go through life knowing every single answer, no matter how much we want to. And I think that, what happens when it comes to the let them theory, I think that people oftentimes, when they're presented with it, they say, oh, no. Because if I just let them do what they want, if I just let them, go about and, if I sit back and I give up power and I give up control, we think that it's giving up such a big piece. But we actually think it is giving up control. And I know I just said that because when you have the conversation with yourself, you're like, oh, I don't want to do that because I don't want to give up control. But what you don't realize is that you're actually in turn taking your power back, because instead of trying to, control every situation, you're instead regaining your power by being like, no matter what you choose, you being the other person, no matter what they decide, no matter which way they decide to go, you are actively and consciously deciding that it is not going to severely impact your emotional well-being. You are deciding in that moment that whatever you do or whatever someone else does, you're going to be okay. It's going to be fine. I think that oftentimes, I know for me in particular, there were so many instances where I would get sick to my stomach and I would be so anxious and I needed to have so much control. And if I didn't have that, I felt like the world was going to crumble. And then this was the crazy part. Then let's take dating, for example. There was a period of time I went through, when I was, after my long-term relationship up until I moved to Nashville, and the people that I would date, I would go through these feelings of, having to have so much control over the situation, and I needed to know what was going to happen, and I was holding on so tight, and I had such a tight grip. And then at the end of it, when it would end, is what I mean, when we would break up or the thing would end or whatever it was, I felt such a relief in such a weird way. Instead of feeling sad, which it was sad, but instead of feeling emotionally impacted, instead of feeling distraught, instead of feeling upset over a breakup, I felt relief because my body was able to release a little bit. My body was able to exhale. My body was able to, mentally release that grip that I had on the situation, to where I actually felt like I could take a deep breath again when these situationships would end. And I just encourage you guys, because I'm making this episode and I'm talking about this because this is the episode and this is kind of the pep talk that I wish that someone gave me. And I'm sure many people did. And I'm sure I didn't want to listen to it in the midst of all of, the peak of these feelings happening for me. I'm sure that I just was not willing to listen to it because I felt like they don't know and they don't get it and they've never been in the situation and how would they know? And I need to do this for myself. And if I don't do this, then it's all going to crumble. And it's like, what if it does? What is the worst thing that happens if it does? And when I was in the peak moments of having to have this grip and not being able to just let them, I would be like, oh, I can't even think about that. Don't even say that. I can't even think about that. What you need to understand at the end of the day, and this is where I wish I could go back and shake myself, is no matter what happens, you are going to be okay. You're going to pick yourself up. You're going to get off the floor. You're going to get off the couch, whatever it is that you're doing. You're going to be able to get up and you're going to be able to continue moving on. You're going to be able to go throughout your day, your life, and you're going to be okay. Time is going to heal it. It might take some time, but you're going to be okay at the end of the day. And in doing this, what I encourage you, and again, what I wish I could tell myself, is sometimes you just need to allow people to show you who they truly are from the beginning. There's that saying that goes, over time, people will show their true colors if you let them. And it's like a no duh. Like you hear that and you're like, of course they will. But when you're in situations and you're actually living life and you're going through scenarios, it's harder to allow people to show their true colors because sometimes you want to control them so badly. But what you need to actually realize is you're doing yourself a disservice by holding on so tightly and by trying to control everything, because you're not letting people show up for you, genuinely, even on a positive note. Like, put aside the fact that it's like, oh, but they could, have ulterior motives, and what if they hurt me in the end, You're not giving someone the opportunity to show up for you in a positive light if you're not just letting them be who they want to be and move the way that they want to move. Don't you want someone in your life who you feel like you don't have to try and control? Don't you want someone in your life? Don't you want to live a life where you feel like you can genuinely trust the people that you have in your life? That's the type of people, and those are the types of people, that you deserve to surround yourself with. The people that you feel like you can relax with, the people that you don't have to feel like you're having to play this mental game of chess with them, to where you feel like you have to have such a, again, I've said it a million times, tight grip, control, manipulate on the situation, because you should be able to trust their actions because they've proved it to you. And that is where, again, let them comes into play. I just feel like if we adopted this let them theory, then we wouldn't be so high strung all the time and wouldn't be so concerned about how other people operate and move around us and what they're going to do and how we're going to react. The only thing that you can control in this life is how you react. You cannot control how everyone else is going to treat you. You cannot control if someone's going to leave you. You can't control if someone's going to hurt you. You can't control if someone's going to be great to you. You can't control if you're going to love someone or vice versa. But you can control how you react. And that's what you have to trust at the end of the day. As long as you trust yourself, that's truly all that matters. And be confident in that. And I know it could be easy to be like, Savannah, well, I don't know if I trust myself. Why not? Why don't you trust yourself? Why don't you trust yourself enough to make the right decisions? Why don't you trust yourself enough to have the right people in your life or to choose the right people to be around you? I mean, everyone goes through a little bit of trial and error in that, I will say, but I think it's important to trust yourself in this process, because once you're able to trust yourself and once you're able to understand, like, okay, no, I trust and I'm just going to believe, that I've been choosing the right things and I've been choosing the right people to have in my life and to have the right people in my corner. And if they decide to prove me wrong, that's not on me. That is on them. That's what I've been learning a lot in individual therapy is, this idea that, trusting people isn't a bad thing. It can feel really scary. And a lot of times we want to have this defense mechanism and put this wall up and not let people in because we're afraid of the outcome. We're afraid of getting hurt. We want to prevent that. We want to get ahead of it, yada, yada, yada. But when you do let your guard down a little bit, when you do trust people, sometimes you will get hurt. Other times, it could be the best decision you ever make. And it's part of life. It truly is. It is part of life to just go through these emotions and go through these trial and errors and to feel the emotions that you're feeling. I wholeheartedly, I think that feeling your emotions are so healthy. I think that 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, I would have said the opposite. I would have just said, oh no, push them to the side, bottle it up, whatever. Now it's like, no, go through the emotions, go through the experiences, go through the feelings of everything that you're feeling and allow yourself to feel all of it, because that truly is a part of life. We're supposed to feel our emotions. We're not supposed to just bottle them up and push them into the corner. And I feel like when you are very, controlling and not fully adopting this let them theory, you tend to not rely on your emotions. You tend to just be so laser focused on what you want the outcome to be that you're not reading between the lines of what it looks like to get there and how much work it's going to be to get there. And you're not reading between the lines of maybe what someone else is showing you, how they're showing up for you, the way that they're presenting themselves. You might not see the red flags because you might just be so focused on the finish line is what I'm trying to say. And I think that can be dangerous. I think that it can be very dangerous, and I don't think it's good for anyone's well-being. I don't think it's good for yours. I don't think it's good for anyone that's around you. And if you're anything like me, it's not good. It's not good. It takes over your life. It can become all-encompassing, and I don't want that for any of you. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today and really hone in. And I know that this is just kind of like a rant at this point and a let's talk. And I didn't have, I didn't have this talk when I was going through it. And it might not make sense cohesively when I'm trying to explain it. I feel like my thoughts are a little bit all over the place. But at the end of the day, what I wanted to come on here and really just emphasize for you is there should not be a world that exists where you are more concerned with someone else's opinions, feelings, how they move around their life, the way in which they show up for you, rather than your own. You cannot control everything. You cannot control how people are going to show up for you. You cannot control the person that they're going to end up being in your life, whether that's someone who's long-term or a stranger at the end of the day. But what you can control is how you show up for yourself. Let people do them. Let it happen. Don't stress on it. Don't make it this whole big thing that swallows your life whole where you can't physically breathe out of it. I know that feeling. It sucks. It's not a good feeling. And once you're in it, it feels like you can't get out of it until it's over, whether that be friendship, relationship, family situation. This definitely can pertain to family as well. I feel like a lot of times, What Would Sav Do, we've had so many entries about people going through horrible situations with their families and what do I do because, they're my family and I love them, but they've done this, they've done that. How do I try and get it to stop happening? You can't. And it sucks. And I don't want to say that, but you can't control how other people are going to act. You can't control how other people are going to show up for you or not, but you can control how you react from the situation. You can control how you choose to show up after learning what you learned about family member, friend, relationship, whatever it may be. That is how you gain your power back, is learning how you're going to react. I know for me personally, I've learned that sometimes no reaction is the best reaction. And I've learned that because just through trial and error, I feel like when you go through different ways of reacting and you go through ups and downs, and whether that be, you full on react and you have a confrontation and you lash it out verbally, or the no reaction side, I more so lean to the no reaction side anymore, because I feel like if you screw up, or if, you show me your true colors and I decide, that's just not gonna go over well with me. At that point, I might make a mental note of, you're not even worth the reaction. So that to me is the best reaction. That's why I think no response is the best response. Sometimes that's why I think no reaction is the best reaction. That doesn't mean you don't feel your feelings. Like I said, I think that it's really important to know the difference between that. Obviously, feel your feelings, feel all of them. But that is kind of the approach that I have chosen to go with for my life, I guess, is as of now. That might change. I might get petty, but for now I'm not. Maybe a little bit, but it's like a subtweet petty. It's not like a calling you out and like adding you petty, It's not like whatever. Anyways, to just kind of sum this all up, my main points that I want to hit on, just to kind of, touch on everything again. Let people show you who they truly are. And when they do, believe them. Don't give them chance after chance. Do not just, throw away your chances at one person or at multiple people because you think at the 6th, 7th, 8th time they're going to change. Maybe give someone a second chance. I do believe in second chances depending on the circumstance. But if someone shows you who they are, believe them. Believe them. And there's that part of it. So let them and believe them. I think the two go hand in hand. Secondly, the main thing that you can control in this life is yourself and your reaction and your power and where you choose to put it. You have complete control of your own power. No one can take that away from you. No one can take away your reaction, your response, your voice, what you choose to do with it, but use it wisely. Decide if something is worth the reaction or not. Decide if something is worth the response or not. Third thing, letting them is not giving up control. Letting them is actually taking back your control and taking back your power, because you are no longer putting your emotional well-being in the hands of someone else. You're no longer putting your emotional state in the hands of someone else. You're no longer putting your mood in the hands of someone else. It's recognizing that you're going to be good no matter what someone else decides to do with their life. You're going to be fine. You're not going to worry about it. So there's that part of it as well. Those are kind of like the three main points that I feel like are really important to just kind of emphasize throughout this episode, because they feel like very easy things. Like, it's like, okay, yeah, Savannah, of course, like, duh, like, okay, I get it, Savannah, da, 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 da. But I don't think that they're as easily practiced. I think it's easy to say them. I think it's easy to be like, yeah, that makes sense. Of course. Why wouldn't someone do that? That would be crazy if they didn't. It's easy to approach it from that angle. It's not as easy to put it into practice. I know for me, I really struggled to put it into practice because, again, I had these controlling tendencies where I felt like I needed to have control on the situation, because if I didn't, my anxiety was going to skyrocket. I wish if I could go back, I would have let people just show me their true colors from the very beginning, because I think I would have had a lot more answers a lot sooner than I did. And I probably would have saved myself a lot of pain in the process, because I wouldn't have gotten so invested. So take that for what you will as well. But that's kind of my rant today, you guys. That was just speaking to me today and this past couple days and this week. I've really been thinking about, just let them. And I think that when you do, you get a lot more answers than you probably will anticipate. Again, people's actions speak louder than their words. And when someone shows you, not tells you, shows you who they are, that is what you have to believe. So that is what I will leave you with today, you guys. But thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of My Thoughts Exactly. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Again, if you did, make sure you go ahead and hit the subscribe button. That way you never miss another one. We post weekly here on the podcast every single Friday. You are not going to want to miss it. I will be back next week with a brand new one for you guys, and I'll see you then. Bye, guys.